Hello crafters, I'm JanB and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you how I made this card. The snow on here is where I have used the softly falling embossing folder, and then I've gone over with the white gel pen and just put little white dots on each of the little bobble parts. Just something a little bit different. So to start off with, I will tell you the card pieces we're going to need. The only colour change I'm doing is this one I did with Cherry Cobbler, and this one I'm going to do with Real Red. So you need a card base of Real Red cardstock, which measures 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, scored and folded at 4 1/8. That's 21 centimetres by 14.5 centimetres, scored and folded at 10.5. Then a layer of Whisper White cardstock, which measures 4 inches by 5 5/8 inches, which is 10.25 by 14.25 centimetres. A top layer of Real Red cardstock, which measures 3 7/8 inches by 5 1/2 inches, which is 10 by 14 centimetres. Now the only other pieces we're going to need are for the bits on the front here. So for the Santa, we need, in fact for Santa and the Wishlist, both those pieces, we need a piece that's approximately 2 inches by 2 1/2 inches each, which is 5 centimetres by 6.25 centimetres each. And then for the Ho Ho Ho, I'm allowing a piece that you need 1 1/2 inches by 1 1/2 inches by, you need 3 of them, but if you want to do it as one long piece, I'm doing it 4 1/2 by 1 1/2, and that's 4 centimetres by 12 centimetres. And then one small piece like this for the sentiment at the bottom, and this measures approximately 1/2 inch by 3 1/2 inches, which is 1.25 centimetres by 9 centimetres. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to use the Big Shot to do the dry embossing. This is the softly falling embossing folder that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to be using our new platform, not that old one, and I'm going to be using it without the Thinlits adapter. If you're a regular viewer of my videos, you know that I often struggle with the embossing, and I used to put paper in there, it's gone, vellum, and I found that that helped to get some really good, sorry that's going out of focus, it gave me some really good impressions, but now I don't need to do that now that I've got this new platform. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that as near to the top as I can, just make sure it's straight, and as it's one of these big dies, I'm putting my fold in the Big Shot first and making sure that it's right inside here so that the ends, the edges don't get caught as it goes through. So there we go, beautiful impression. I get that every time now that I use this new platform. If you buy a new Big Shot, it comes with this new platform. If you're like me and you have an old one, I'm afraid you have to buy it as a separate item. Right, so what I'm going to do is with my gel pen, which we have stopped selling, but they are quite easy to get on the market. all I'm going to do is draw little dots on each of these bumps, and don't worry, you're not going to have to sit and watch me do a complete sheet because it is quite time consuming with all the bumps that there are on here. I've got one over there that I made earlier. I just do a few and then I'm going to bring it up close so that you can see if I do some of the big bumps and some of the little bumps. Okay, so that's all I do, but I go over the whole sheet, and here's one I did earlier. Okay. It takes a little bit of patience to do it, but to give your card something that's a little bit different, I think it's worth the effort. So before I proceed, I'm going to adhere these layers together. As usual, I'm using my very best friend Tombow. Once I've done all the bits and pieces, I will be putting those onto my card front using dimensionals. Oh, don't run out. And this pattern, you can put it either way. You can have the thick snow at the top coming down, or you can have it thick snow coming down to the bottom, that way. I prefer to have the thick one up the top. Right, now, all our stamping. So first of all, I'm going to do the wish list, and that comes from Greetings from Santa. This is the one that I'm going to be using from here. The sentiment I'm also using from here as well. That's where that one's from. Okay. And I'm going to stamp this in real red ink. There we go. That needs to be cut out by hand, but I always have problems with red ink, so I am going to allow that a little bit of time to dry. Santa, I'm going to stamp him using our archival black ink, and you'll notice on my stamp I've also got his little pom-pom for his hat. So I'm going to stamp those at the same time. And he comes from the Cookie Cutter Christmas. So it's him there and that little pom-pom. Now that's silly, that's a bit on the short side, I wonder. I obviously had a bigger piece of cardstock I was using earlier. So there's a detail that you need to pay attention to. When you put the pom-pom on, make sure it's close enough to your Father Christmas that it's not going to come off the edge. In fact, that wasn't a very good stamp at all. Should we do it on the other side? Let's try again. I think that's because I hesitated too long before I stamped him, and it is a quick drying ink. So let's see if we can do this a little bit quicker. Right, okay. Father Christmas is a lot better, but the pom-pom isn't. In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's do that again. And just... there we go, that's fine. There's always ways around these things. Then the stamping of the sentiment. Now what I've done with this is I have made sure that I've got this on here nice and straight, and the way that I did that was I laid it upside down on my grid paper, made sure it was straight with one of the lines here, and then when I put this on top I made sure this was straight with the line up there as well, and just to make sure that I did have it straight I tested it and it was fine. So what I need to do now is I'm going to bring this down towards me, and I'm lining this up so it's straight with my line across there, and this is going to be real red. Make sure I've got this up the right way. Okay, now try not to get too far over the camera. Right, fingers crossed. There we go. I don't know that it's perfect, but it's very, very straight to me. That's one of the advantages of not being able to see a straight line. Sometimes you see crooked lines as straight lines. Right, last thing then, let's do our ho ho ho. And this is lovely to do, I like this. I've used the brushwork alphabet from here, and I'm using the small letters, and I've put the letters onto individual blocks. I'm using our little ones here. So I've got the H, the O and the exclamation mark. It's a great set because you've got capital letters and you've got the small letters, and you've got some symbols here too. I could have done the capital H and a small O, but I quite like this. So what I did was, bearing in mind I'm going to be punching these out with 1-inch circles, so I need to space them out. So my first H, doesn't really matter where that goes because everything follows afterwards. I'm going to do the next one about halfway along, and then not going too close to the edge on that one. Now for the O, I'm going to put ink on here, and then when I place it down here I'm going to make sure that that little hook on the bottom of the H, I'm going to make sure that I can see that just coming through the round bit on the stamp there. I wonder if I can show you this up here. Yes, you can just about see that, can't you? You see how the hook, if you keep your hands still, you can just about see that through the actual stamp. So that's what we need to do down here. So again, I'm going to bring it as close to me as I can. Okay, so it finishes up joined up together. To get these to be punched out perfectly with a 1-inch circle punch, you need to get these as close as possible so that you've got a little gap from the bottom of the H and a little gap from the top of the exclamation mark, because it doesn't look right if you punch it and those are actually touching the cut edge. But as long as you do these close enough together, it works beautifully. Well, as you can see, it works beautifully. Right, let me pull this down again. Concentrate. That's it. This really is very easy to do. That one's a bit come down a bit, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. And now the exclamation mark, I don't want it to touch the O, but I do want it really, really close. And again, I'm going to be looking through the actual block to line it up against there. The other thing you need to pay attention to on the exclamation mark is to make sure that the upright is at the same sort of angle as the H is. One of them I did so that this was straight and the H was sideways, and it looked wrong, as you can see there. Okay, so I've got to do this so that it goes that sort of direction, but nice and close. I hope that makes sense. Right, now going really close. And at an angle. There we go. Could do a bit closer. Let's see if I can do it closer without spoiling it. Still at an angle. Maybe a bit closer. There we go. Right, so while I'm waiting for that to dry as well, I'm going to colour the Santa. And what I'm going to use is my red marker pen. I'm going to do his hood, his hat rather. It's not a hood on this one, is it? The lines are quite nice and thick, so it's quite easy to colour in. I'm in the middle of doing 120 of these for our swaps, for my swaps, for when I go to Telford in a couple of weeks' time. There we go, so that's his outfit done. And then for his gloves, shoes and belt, I'm using the basic grey. I didn't want to use the black because it's too dark and it would cover up the detail, like this little bit on the belt, and it would cover up the detail on the boots as well. There we go. And then, very naughty of me, but I am using my retired Blush Blossom marker pen. It's something I really wish Stampin' Up would have as a permanent marker pen, because the colour for skin is absolutely superb. And something else I tried on this Father Christmas, let me bring it up and show you. I gave him eyes. That's what he's like without eyes. I think mine's a great improvement, don't you? So let's see if I can do that again. That's the first time I've tried it. I think I will use the pen end for this. And all I did was I just joined the two ends of his eyebrows, or eyes. I suppose they're his eyes really, aren't they? that hasn't come out quite so good, but it does look a lot better. In fact, you can't see that there's any gap there. Once that's dried, I'll probably go over that a bit with some the gel pen, white gel pen. Right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add some Dazzling diamonds. In fact, I'll punch him out, I think, first. So I'm using the, can't think what they call this, something builder punch, cookie cutter builder punch. But first of all, I'm going to punch out the little pom-pom first. Oh, where did that go? Is that it? Oh, must have been something else that pinged a cake across the room. Right, let me cut this out because I've had to do it at an angle. It's not going into the punch properly. That's better. Oh, I've missed out a glove, look at that. Let's bring back my basic grey. Now for the dazzling details, you can use Tombow and also the fine tip glue pen, but my two-way glue pen hasn't run out yet, but it does seem as if it's run away. I don't know. It was here earlier. Okay, so in the absence of that, what would be my next favourite? Well, I suppose let's try this one. Okay, so let's have my silicone mat. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue, if I can get this going again. I haven't used this for such a long time. Ah, there we go. Right, so I'm going to put some on the trim of his hat. On his beard, moustache, the cuffs on his jacket, on the end of his sleeves, down the front of his jacket, around the base, and then on the cuffs around his trousers. Just tilting it, make sure that I can see that there's glue all over the place. And then I'm just going to dip him into my Dazzling diamonds, and he's come out really nicely. Let's also do the pom-pom, which I would have been more sensible if I'd put it on his hat first. Right, so I've got that, dip that in. In fact, while I've got this here, I might as well put some glue on the back. And then put it on onto there. Yep, that's good. Now, can I get this back on? Yes, I can, but I can feel that that's a little bit clogged up inside. After I finish the video, I'll have a good look at that. So he's all right. Now I'm going to punch this out with the 1-inch circle punch, making sure that nothing touches the actual edge of the circles. That was a bit close. So the next bit of gluing I need to do, I'm only going to do one because I've got 3 of them over there already prepared. So I'll save those for another one. Let's use this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just putting some glue all the way around the outside of my circle. Needs a bit of a steady hand. Once you've done most of it, then you need to hold it in the centre to get that last bit done. Okay, and then pop that into the Dazzling diamonds. So let's get this one closed up. Oops. Okay, so you can see how it's got glitter going around the edge. Okay. And this needs to be fussy cut, but it's really very easy, it's so straightforward. And you need to leave a little white edging around here. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now all I need is to assemble my card, and I'm going to use all the pieces I did earlier because I've already put all the dimensionals on the back of them. Okay, so first of all, the Merry Christmas. I'm going to pop that straight along the bottom. And then I'm going to do Santa Claus. just judging where I want him to go, about there. And then with this one, I put a glue dot on that piece there, so that once I hook it under, it will adhere onto Father Christmas's leg. So what do we do with the glue dots? I can see them. You can probably tell I've just been using up the last of a sheet of dimensionals with all these funny shapes. Just pick that up with my paper piercer. Pop it down on there. And I'm going to hold that bit up first, pop that just under the arm. Let's move that up a little bit. That's better. Okay, so it looks as if Father Christmas is holding that. And then with the ho ho ho, you just decide where you want them to go. And then attach those. I tend to do the first and the last one, and then it's easy to decide where the middle one goes. You may decide you don't want these in a straight line. But whatever way you like it is the correct way. There we go. Oh, I can have another go at Father Christmas eyes. I didn't do them on this one. Right, there we go. There's my two cards. Many thanks for watching my video. I think I prefer this one. Much brighter. But that's okay. You got better eyes. Anyway, many thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, please send me an email to janb@janbcards.com. I'm always very happy to help you. If you would, or leave a comment in the box below, sorry. If you'd like to purchase any of the products that I featured here today, if you go to the box below, you'll find a link to my 24/7 online Stampin' Up shop. And if you've enjoyed my video and you have checked that it has actually got my name on the front, because some of my videos have been hijacked, I'm afraid, if you can make sure it's Jan Brown underneath the title of the video, and then subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate that. And I will also be putting all the products that I've used and the measurements on the screen. If you can't see them because of the device that you're watching on, click on where it says show more below, and that will open up the box and all the information will be in there for you. Many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.